Okay, this video is alphabetical order from the Holy Grail of Wisdom books by me, Pete Rogers. We're going in alphabetical order. Petronius. He was an advisor to Nero, and he was a brilliant guy. He wrote the Satyricon. He's very funny and clever. But, you know, with Nero, you got to be careful because Nero was so crazy and vindictive and would turn on people quickly. He became famous to modern people because he was featured in Quo Vadis, a novel by Henry Sienkiewicz, one of the all-time greatest novels. So here's just a couple quotes from him. The world wants to be deceived, so let it be deceived. The relevance is that, in my experience, I've kind of had the experience of both being around a lot of rich people and a lot of poor people. And what I have seen is that the rich people, they don't really think of poor people as people. They think of them as like animals, as like these low-life animal creatures. So in Rome, you had the aristocrats, and they would think of the peasants, the plebeians, you know, just as like low-life animals. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is no one has sympathy for the proles in the higher-ups. Their attitude is the proles are stupid, they deserve to be sick, so be it, okay? Christianity has mercy for them, but the proles tend to be very stupid, and they tend to look up to authority figures, despite the fact that authority figures, sort of like aristocrats, if you will, in the modern world, look at the proles as like dumb animals. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. I'm being honest with you. Okay, what power has law where only money rules? Yeah, when everything is controlled by money, the rules are kind of a joke. And sadly, the world's becoming more like that. Big money can just ignore the rules. The peasant has to obey all the rules, no matter how stupid. Okay, Petronius continues. School makes complete fools of our young men because they see and hear nothing of ordinary life there. Yeah, and that's the same thing the way public schools are now. They're much worse now. They're designed now to make people stupid. All right, well, anyways, Petronius was actually much more clever and much more fun in the book Quo Vadis. And my best line that I think was in that movie was Petronius had said, the Greeks taught us poetry and wisdom. The Romans taught us power, and the Christians have taught us love and forgiveness on a grand scale. I thought that was pretty well put. Okay, Alexander Pope. He's the poet from England, famous for making catchy phrases. One line about him by Will Durant. Alexander Pope was not a great thinker, but he was a great versifier. Okay. Jonathan Swift. In Pope I cannot read a line, but with a sigh, I wish it was mine. And, you know, Jonathan Swift himself was very good at writing poetry, very clever, very funny. He's the author of Gulliver's Travels. He was like the deacon of the Trinity Church College or something. And he was good. He tried to help the Irish. You know, he was more of an Englishman than an Irishman, but he tried to help the Irish. Okay, Alexander Pope. Some people will never learn anything for this reason. They understand everything too soon. I sometimes run into that with young people. Young people think they know a lot more than they do. You sit there and you talk to them, and you know that they don't know anything. But they got this cocky, confident attitude. That's part of the charm of youth, but they really are ignoramuses, okay? And it's hard to teach them anything if they're so confident they already know the answer. You know? All right, Alexander Pope. Amusement is the happiness of those who cannot think. Yeah, in my experience, you know, a real smart person, they're always thinking about something. So that's entertainment. I don't need to go anywhere to be entertained, okay? I've got 10 different things I want to read. After I write a book all about science, then I want to study something from the humanities, literature, art, painting, okay? Then I do that for a month or so, and I'm like, gosh, I want to do more science. I miss the science. So I'm always interested in something. I don't need to, you know, have some frivolous activity. I see myself as a performer, not a spectator. A performer is always trying to learn, prepare for the next performance, rather than a spectator just wants to go watch something. I don't like crowds, you know. Anyways, next quote of Alexander Pope. Blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed. Kind of like a stoic. Do good by stealth and blush to find it fame. Here's a good one. They dream in courtship, but wake in wedlock. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. To err is human, to forgive divine. So, you know, these lines by Pope, they're very clever. And so, you know, it's good to know them. You can say them. You'll find yourself, once you know them, you'll find yourself saying them quite often. Not often, but often enough in conversation. Hope springs eternal in the human breast. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. So the Pierian spring is like the fountain of knowledge. And I'll sometimes joke when a commenter makes something really obnoxious or stupid, a troll, a pedo, keto, carnivore or something, I'll say, don't pee in the fountain of knowledge. Okay, Alexander Pope. One science only will one genius fit. So vast is art, so narrow is human wit. Yeah, basically you can get somebody who's a genius, devotes their whole life, 50 years of their career to studying one thing, and they'll figure out one thing in one narrow area. The point being is there's a billion times more information worth knowing, and the human mind is so limited compared to what is happening and what's out there and the complexity of human life, human biology. And that's, again, why I believe in God, because I know a lot of biochemistry, and I can tell you, it's off the charts complex. So it couldn't happen by accident. It's just it's far more complex than anything a human could ever do. Okay, Alexander Pope continues. True ease in writing comes from art, not chance, as those move easiest who have learned to dance. Verse lets me say more in fewer words. Verse locks something into people's memory, like Cicero had said, rhyme is a magnet for the ear. So anyways, that's it for today. Petronius and Pope. Hope you found that helpful.